Not to be dramatic, but these books absolutely broke me. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Carly, and today we're going to take a little bit of a break from the spooky season / fall content, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the books that absolutely tore my heart out. Now, I wouldn't really call myself a crier in general. I am quite a sensitive person, but I don't really cry a lot. I don't know if that just means I'm a bit broken. But for a few different reasons, these books absolutely gut punched me, and before I knew it, my tears were falling on my pages. Some of these are more well-known tearjerkers that I've seen got a similar reaction from a few other readers, but there is one in particular that you will probably be giving me a bit of a side-eye judgmental glance at, because what do you mean a thriller book made me cry? Before I get into the books, I just want to say a massive thank you for being here. If you are enjoying my content, I would absolutely love it if you decided to hit that little subscribe button below and stick around for lots of bookish shenanigans. But yeah, let's get into the books that made me an emotional wreck. First up, we have got Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. This book is available on Kindle Unlimited. And before I talk about what it's about, I just want to put a disclaimer in that I would highly advise you check trigger warnings before you go into this book, because it is an extremely uncomfortable read, or it was for me anyway. It basically follows the story of a teenage boy called Noah who confesses to his mother that he did some terrible things to some of the girls that he taught during swim practice. Noah is sentenced to 18 months in a rehabilitation centre. The whole book is pretty much about the mother's struggles because she wants to protect her son and she still loves him, but she's obviously absolutely horrified by what he's done as well. There's also a conflict within Noah's family dynamics because his mother is trying her best to support him, but his father absolutely hates him. And to be honest, I'm not going to say too much more about it because, like I said, it was an extremely uncomfortable read for me. And I can't actually tell you what made me cry without giving away spoilers, but this book got such a visceral reaction from me. It absolutely tore my heart out. I'm the type of person that just really finds it difficult to read anything to do with children or animals. So this book was a really, really tough read for me. And I think as a mother myself as well, I don't know, it just absolutely tore my heart out. Right, next. Oh, they're the wrong way around. Next up, we have got every single book that I have read by TJ Klune, and every single one of them made me cry. We'll start with these two. So we've got The House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea. So these are in a series. This is book 1 and this is book 2. These are the special editions. I know they don't match and it absolutely irks me, let me tell you, but these were the only special editions available in House in the Cerulean Sea, and they were the demi hardback size. But anyway, I just want to show you. So this was actually the book that I physically read. Look at all the tabs. This was when I started tabbing. This was when I was in my tabbing era. And all of those are quotes that I absolutely loved. So I can't really say much about book 2 without giving away spoilers for book 1, but it kind of follows on from book 1. And book 1 follows the story of Linus Baker. He is 40 years old. He lives a quiet, peaceful life with his cat, and he works at the department in charge of magical youth. Linus is a stickler for the rules. He does everything by the book. And one day he is called into very upper management or something like that. He is called into this very serious meeting where they tell him he is to be sent on a classified assignment to monitor an orphanage, which is home to 6 of the most dangerous children, including the Antichrist himself. To be honest, as soon as I saw the word Antichrist in the blurb, I was like, oh, I'm going to have a fabulous time. And without giving too much away, basically the book is all about Linus getting to know these children. It's about not judging a book by its cover. It's about prejudice. It's about found family and love. And honestly, I cried multiple times throughout both books. I've got goosebumps talking about them now. They are the most incredible books. I love TJ Klune's writing. I'm probably going to say that now about the next 2 books, but The way he writes, there's humour in there. He is very witty. He creates the most endearing characters. They will stay with you long after you've turned the last page. If anybody has read these books, you'll know exactly what I mean when I mention the name Chauncey. Honestly, these books are just like a great big warm hug. But definitely get the tissues ready because I challenge you not to cry when you read them. And then we have got Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Again, I've got the special edition. As you can probably tell, I am a TJ Klune super fan. And I have usually got a TJ Klune shrine on my shelf behind me, but I've had to destroy it for the purpose of this video. So this one actually reminded me a little bit of Scrooge. You know the Nightmare, is it the Night Before Christmas? Nightmare Before Christmas? I can't actually remember. Where Scrooge is visited by the ghosts of Christmas past and all the rest of it. And he starts looking at his own life from the outside and realizes that he needs to change his ways. It kind of gave me a similar vibe, but obviously with a TJ Klune twist. So this follows the story of Wallace. Wallace hasn't been the nicest person during his life. He dies straight away early on in the book. And he is visited by a reaper called Hugo, who takes him to this tea shop. I think it's called Sharon's Cross tea shop or something like that, where he's got, I think it's a week to help Wallace cross over to the other side. I'm actually going to read you the bottom bit of the blurb because I feel like it's going to do a much better job than I can. So it says, as Wallace drinks his tea with Hugo and talks to his customers, he wonders if he'd been missing something. The feeling grows as he shares jokes with the resident ghost, manifests embarrassing footwear and notices the stars. So when he's given 1 week to pass through the door to the other side, Wallace sets about living a lifetime in just 7 days. Oh God, the tears are going to start falling again. Honestly, this book, I was bawling my eyes out reading this book. Oh, it actually says on the back as well, a man who lives to help the dead meets a man who died, then learned how to live. Oh, no, stop. I think I'm actually going to reread this book. It is so beautiful. Even if you're not a fan of fantasy books, I would still highly recommend it. It is a little bit more slow burn than House in the Cerulean Sea, but in my opinion, it is absolutely worth the investment because the payoff, oh my God, it is bloody lush. And then the fourth TJ Klune book, I actually read this at the beginning. Did I read this at the beginning of this year? I can't actually remember. The Bones Beneath My Skin. And it basically follows the story of, is this Nate? Yeah, his name's Nate. And he is kind of, so it says he's at a loose end. His parents are dead, his older brother has disowned him, and he's been fired from his job. So he's looking for a sense of direction and returns to his family's summer cabin in Oregon. So when he gets to the cabin, which should be empty, isn't actually empty. And inside is this man with a young girl whose name is Artemis Darth Vader. I mean, can you even cope? The names TJ Klune gives to his characters are absolutely epic. And to be honest, I don't think I can say too much more about this book without giving away massive spoilers, but Artemis Darth Vader is a very special little girl, and her protector and Nate kind of bond with each other over discovering how special she is. There are people hunting them, and you know, you've got like the danger and the high stakes. Do you know what? Most of the way through this book, it was a 4-star read, and in classic TJ Klune style, he absolutely floored me and played havoc with my emotions. And I finished this book an absolute blubbering mess. I've just put my TJ Klune shrine shelf back together. Next up, we have got The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. And again, I read this during my tab-in era. This is... it's kind of like a spooky rom-com with magical realism. It follows the story of Florence. She is a ghostwriter and she is desperately after an extension on her deadline from her new and very strict editor, Benji. He's not shifting with the deadline. Florence has given up all hope. She's kind of written off her job and she goes back to stay at her family home for a bit, which is actually a funeral home. None of these are spoilers either. This is all in the blurb. It is here that we discover that Florence can see ghosts, and after not being back at her family home for very long, Florence gets a knock on the front door, and the person stood at her front door is none other than the ghost of her very dead editor, Benji. The bottom of the blurb says, as sparks start to fly between them, even though he's a ghost, Florence tells herself she can't be falling for a ghost, even an infuriatingly sexy one. But can Benji help Florence to realise love isn't dead after all? So it is kind of like, I know what you're thinking. Why did you cry at this book? But again, I can't really say exactly what made me cry without giving away spoilers. There's a scene in this book where there's a speech. And the speech, oh my God, the tears instantly. It was like a switch went off. And I was bawling my eyes out. I broke my heart over this speech. Let me know if you have read this book and if you know the speech I'm talking about. Because I was like, I don't remember anybody talking about this book and saying that it actually made them cry. But yeah, I got a bit emotional over this. Next up, we have got The Last List of Mabel Beaumont by Laura Pearson. This is available on Kindle Unlimited. And oh my God, did I absolutely break my heart reading this book. Do you know what? I don't think I've heard anybody else talking about this book. I think I read it at the beginning of this year. I actually did this on audio and I think I just chose it because it was like in a 2-for-1 offer or something. Like I said, never heard anything about it, but it basically follows the story of Mabel. She is in her 80s and her beloved husband Arthur has recently passed away. Now, Arthur loved his lists. He was always writing lists and he has left Mabel one last list and all it says on the list is find D. Mabel thinks she knows exactly what Arthur means in his last list and she thinks that Arthur's last wish was for her to find her long lost friend Dot, who she hasn't seen for 60 years. But being in her 80s, Mabel is obviously going to need some help. So she enlists the help of some of the most unlikely people who form the most unlikely friendships. And oh my God, this is just another book that is just like one big warm hug. I got goosebumps again talking about it. Honestly, I am such a sensitive soul sometimes. But we've got the found family element. I was so invested in Mabel's story. At the end of every chapter, I was so desperate for her to find her friend Dot. It's all about how it's never too late for happiness and how it's important to stay true to yourself. It actually says at the bottom, what she doesn't know, so obviously Mabel, is that her list isn't just about finding her old friend and that if she can admit the secrets of her past, maybe she could even find happiness again. Oh God! It actually says a completely heartbreaking, beautiful, uplifting story guaranteed to make you smile but also make you cry. 100%, absolutely. I bawled my eyes out. I listened to my audiobooks while I work and I was stood icing my cakes with tears falling down my face onto my jumper. I bloody love this book so much. Next up, we have got The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brammer. And this is another one I don't think I have seen anybody else talking about. And I love nothing more than stumbling upon hidden gems. So this book follows the story of Clover, who is a death doula. Now, I didn't even know that this was a thing, but where a doula, like a birth doula, helps babies into the world, a death doula helps people at the end of life, like with their end of life care, and helps them leave the world in a peaceful, lovely way, I guess. Clover keeps journals where she writes some of the last words of some of these people that she's looked after. And one of the journals is regrets, i.e. the collected regrets. But the more Clover does her job and the more she speaks to these people and hears their final words, the more she starts to realise that she's got some regrets of her own and she herself isn't actually living life to its fullest. She meets a feisty old lady called Claudia who kind of gives her a bit of a kick up the bum and makes her realise that she needs to start living the life that she truly deserves. It actually says at the bottom of this blurb, as Clover begins a new adventure, will she remember how to live her own big, beautiful life? Oh, honestly, this book, it is just so wholesome and heartwarming, and it turns the usually taboo subject of death into a beautiful reason to celebrate life instead. I know I'm probably going to say this about every single book, but I absolutely bawled my eyes out at this. Like, ugly crying, tears on my pages. They're probably crinkled at the back from the tears falling on them. But yeah, oh my God, this is one of my absolute favourite books. Right, next up, we have got two books from the queen of ripping your heart out, Kristin Hannah. We've got The Women and The Nightingale. I actually did both of these on audio and I highly recommend the audio. I think The Women was narrated by Julia Whelan. I don't know how you say her surname. I can't remember if The Nightingale was or not. But regardless, both narrators did an absolutely phenomenal job with these audiobooks. And yeah, if these books are on your radar, then definitely check out the audio versions. So The Women is basically about a woman called Frankie. She impulsively signs herself up to become an army nurse and is sent to Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And the first half of the book is kind of like Frankie's experience during the wartime. It's actually quite graphic. It's about like girlhood and the friendship she forms when she's over there. And then the second half of the book is more about her return from war, where she expected a hero's welcome and what she got was far from it. Do you know what? I don't think I'm doing this book justice. It is absolutely incredible. I really want to read more by Kristin Hannah, to be honest. I've only read these two and The Great Alone, so I've got the rest of her backlist I really need to get to. But this book, oh my God, it was just so powerful. Like, I have seen so many incredible reviews for it, but I didn't really know what to expect. Kristin Hannah had me right in the palm of her hand and yeah, finished it absolutely bawling my eyes out. And similarly, The Nightingale, it's about two sisters, I've forgotten their names, Vianne and Isabel. So this book is actually set in Paris during World War II, during a time where the Nazis had occupied Paris. So the top bit actually says, this story is about what it was like to be a woman during World War II, when women's stories were all too often forgotten or overlooked. And it basically follows these two sisters who are both very, very strong women. They put themselves in danger to protect other people for completely different reasons. It is all about what life was like living in Paris when the Nazis were in charge. Do you know what? I didn't even know this was a thing, but the Nazi soldiers could actually insist on living in your house, and if you had nowhere else to go, then you had to live in your house with a Nazi soldier. This is just a story about human resilience and strong female characters, and it is another one that made me ugly cry while I was icing my cakes. Next up, we have got The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this follows the story of Evelyn Hugo. She is a Hollywood star. She makes the decision to tell her life story, and she hires a very unknown journalist to write it for her. Do you know what? On paper, this shouldn't have been a book that I enjoyed as much as I did. It is all about Evelyn's life. So it follows, I think it spans from like the 1950s, her entry into the film industry. It's all about Evelyn's life, her husband's, and obviously. I'm not usually a huge fan of character-driven books where there's not a lot of plot to them. But this book had me in an absolute chokehold while I was reading it. This is another one I did on audio, actually. And again, I highly recommend the audiobook. The narrator, again, was absolutely fantastic. Do you know what? This is actually the only Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I have liked so far. And the way she wrote Evelyn Hugo, I actually felt like this book was a memoir and I was reading a story about a real person. Like, I felt like I knew Evelyn Hugo in depth by the time I'd finished it. This has so many unexpected twists and turns throughout the whole book. And oh God, I was an absolute mess when I finished it. It is just such a beautiful book. This is actually the special edition that I had for my birthday from Amy, Michaela and Ashley. And there's a letter on the back from Evelyn and it says, "My dearest, I always promised I'd tell you the full story one day. The secrets, the lies, the love stories. Seems so clear to me now that I spent much of my life chasing the wrong thing. But I found what I was looking for along the way. And for that, I am exceedingly grateful. I do not claim to be an honest person or even a good one, but I am finally ready to tell you the truth. All my love, Evelyn." Oh my God, I need to reread this book immediately. Next up, we have got The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. And we actually read this book for May's book club. And boy, did this book divide opinions. But I am very happy to say that I was firmly in the love it camp. I absolutely loved this book. And yeah, it made me cry. I don't really know how to describe it. I guess it's kind of got like dystopian elements to it. It is basically about a society where everybody above the age of 22 wakes up one morning and there's a package on their doorstep. And inside the package is a piece of string. Now, this string determines how long you've got left to live. You've got people with really tiny short strings, you've got people with really, really long strings, you've got everything in between. And it is all about how this concept divides society. I actually think this is a really, really clever book. I really loved the concept of it and the strings and like, would you open the box? Would you want to know? And obviously there's characters within this book. Some of them look, some of them don't. Some of them are in relationships where they've got a short string, their partner's got a long string, and it's all about the dynamics of that and how they work through it. What I will say though is maybe go into this book with caution, because it does talk a lot about death and it is quite an upsetting read at times, but and again, I can't really say what scene in this book made me cry, but there was one scene in particular that was just so unexpected. And oh my God, I was just absolutely heartbroken by it. I think as well, I was just so immersed in this story and so invested in every single character in this book that you get to know them. Like, you feel like you know them on a personal level. So I think because I was just so invested, oh God, I just absolutely love this book so much. And if you have seen mixed reviews on it, because since I finished it, I don't think I've seen many very good reviews for it, to be honest. But, and I know reading is subjective, but in my opinion, I actually thought it was really good. Next up, we have got The 100 Years of Lenni and Margot by Marianne Cronin. And honestly, I challenge anybody not to cry when they read this book. It is the most heartbreaking story. It's set in a hospital and it follows 17-year-old Lenni, who has got terminal cancer, and 83-year-old Margot. They form the most unlikely of friendships. They meet in an art class, and between them they decide to paint pictures to represent each of the 100 years that they've collectively been alive. Almost like a celebration of each of their lives. The book pretty much follows their story. So through these paintings then we travel back in time to Lenni's story and Margot's story, and oh my God, this book. Lenni is one of my favourite characters. She is so fierce and such a strong character for a 17-year-old. Margot is just bloody lush. And I mean, I knew going into it that I would bawl my eyes out reading it, and I was not wrong. So it says at the bottom, to celebrate their lives, they begin to paint their stories of growing old and staying young, of giving joy and receiving kindness, of losing and finding the person who is everything. Oh my God, no, stop. Right, next up we have got The Last Witch of Scotland by Philip Paris. And do you know what? It wasn't actually the book itself that made me cry, but it was an author's note at the end. Even though the book itself didn't make me cry, I will tell you briefly what it's about. It is about the last woman in Scotland to be executed for witchcraft. So it follows the story of Janet and her daughter Ayla. It's the same old story. They are very clever women. A new minister comes to town and he takes a dislike to them, and they both end up on trial for witchcraft. It follows their story, it follows their trial. And I mean, the book itself is absolutely lush and I loved it. I think I've probably said a million times on this channel previously, I absolutely love a witchy book, and I actually think this is so underrated. So I'm going to read the bit at the end that made me cry. This isn't a spoiler at all. This isn't even written by the author. This is a public apology from Nicola Sturgeon, who is the First Minister of Scotland, acknowledging the history of the witch trials. I won't read it all, but the bit that made me cry was, try my best not to cry on camera. On the 24th of May 2022, the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland issued its own apology. They acknowledge and regret the terrible harm caused to all those who suffered from accusations and prosecutions under Scotland's historic witchcraft laws, the majority of whom were women, and apologise for the role of the Church of Scotland and the General Assembly in such historical persecution. And do you know what? You're probably thinking, bloody hell, why did you cry over that? But I just think because I had literally just finished a book that was all about the persecution, the unfair persecution of women, it just really, really hit hard, like the injustice of it all. I just think it was so sad how women were treated literally just because they were educated. And yeah, it just made me cry. Right, next up we have got the only one I don't have a physical copy of, Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. I actually read this last month. I think this was in my August reading wrap up. It is a cozy witchy fantasy, which I absolutely loved. It gives proper cozy vibes. It is about our main character called Belladonna Blackthorn, which, I'm sorry, that name is the most epic name ever. She works in a bookshop, so we've got the cozy bookshop vibes. She's a witch that needs to conceal her magic from the general public, and she's given kind of like this test by her coven that she must learn to complete in order to keep her magic. And you know what? Most of the way through, it was just lovely, cozy vibes that I absolutely loved. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but there's a scene in this book with a grandmother, and I was a goner. I was an absolute goner. So just to give you some context before I talk about my last book, because it'll be relevant for that as well, my nan raised me. My nan brought me up. So she was my best friend. She was my mother. She was my father. She was my nan. She was my number one cheerleader, and she was my absolute everything. She sadly passed away in 2023. It'll be coming up to 2 years, actually. I can't believe that time has absolutely flown. And yeah, there was a scene in this, and I think one of the characters just said something like, "I need you, Nan." Oh my God, I'm going to go now. I'm going to have to go get my tissues. And that, I don't know, it just made me think about my Nan. And last but not least, I have saved the thriller book that made me cry till last. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This one is available on Kindle Unlimited. And do you know what? It is actually a decent thriller book in its own right. It follows the story of Daisy Darker. Do you know what? This is actually perfect for the upcoming season because it's set during Halloween. Daisy goes to visit her grandmother on this isolated... She lives in this house on an island that is cut off by the tide. So for 8 hours a day, they're cut off by the tide. So we've already got that. Alice Feeney just does isolated settings so well. And this is just classic Alice Feeney. So yeah, Daisy and her whole family go to her grandmother's house to celebrate the 80th birthday. Every family member has got secrets that they're trying to keep. I can't really say too much about it, again, because I don't want to give away any spoilers. The blurb doesn't really give away too much. It kind of gave like Agatha Christie vibes. It was very easy and fun to read. And again, without giving away any spoilers, there's a scene in this book with a grandmother, like just a general chat. And I absolutely broke my heart because it just made me think of my nan. I am probably the only person on this planet that has cried at Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. So yeah, that brings me to the end of my list of books that made me cry. I really hope you enjoyed watching, even though I've literally just spoken about books that made me cry. So it's not the happiest of subjects, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you got some inspiration for your own reading lists as well. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to hit that little subscribe button below. I would absolutely love it if you decided to stick around. And yeah, I will leave it there for now, and I'll catch you all next time.